Dungeon Master has placed you in a dreadfully precarious position.
Dungeon Master and Dwarven Sword Master, Hobgoblins, Dwarves, Elves, and Halflings are some of the characters and terms used in this very complicated and controversial game.
You're playing the most phenomenal game ever created.
All right, welcome everyone. We're back. We didn't stream last week because I don't remember why. I think I was sick or something.
Yeah, I think so.
My kid was sick. She had whooping cough, so.
Oh, that sucks.
It's been it was kind of not a fun weekend last weekend, and I was sick at one point. But we're back as ever with Victor Gorchev. Thanks, Vic, for showing up.
You're welcome, and hoi iedereen.
And we got DM Blackwall here to talk about Horde Wars, his D12 fantasy role-playing game. We've had him on a while back, maybe like a year ago. I think it hadn't been released yet. You were
Yeah,
we're just like a guest, I think.
Yeah, you were playtesting it at that point.
Yeah.
But now Horde Wars Basic is out, which is levels 1 through 4, I believe.
That's correct.
You're working on the full game, so or advanced, I think.
Yep.
So
that should be out in about 10 months or so.
Awesome. I mean, I was looking at the basic rules, and it is like 194 pages. So we'll just start here. How big is the advanced version going to be?
About 360 at this point.
That's pretty big.
I'm still doing the basic layout. I'm in chapter 11 right now of 16. And so that'll give me the page count when I'm done with that, give or take a couple pages, because currently our artists are working on as much as they can. And when they're done, if we decide we need it, we might add 1 or 2 full pages of extra art.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Real quick, Mercurius, I'm sorry you're sick, but I'm glad you could tune in. I know you're all the way on the other side of the world, so it's like morning for you. You're even farther away than Vic is. So,
where is he? Even I don't know.
I think he's Australia, but I'm not sure. Somewhere over there.
Imagine being Australian. Couldn't be me. I like my guns too much.
That's true. But yeah, that's cool. So I guess because some people, it's been a while since you've been on Blackwall, so some people might not be familiar exactly with Horde Wars. So I think it would do the game some do the game some good if we kind of went over, even if it's stuff we went over last time you were on.
Oh, sure.
Kind of went back over what the game's about, maybe its design goals, and the expectations people can kind of have for this kind of game. What would you say is, like, if there was an analog to this game as far as like feel, or like a book or another game out there? What would you say like is sort of its closest relative? For lack of a better term.
I think if you were playing 3rd edition D&D with significantly more efficient rules and built from the ground up to be a Gestalt game, for those of you who aren't familiar, that's where you get 2 classes at the same time. It was a variant rule in 3rd edition D&D. That's probably the closest, but our action economy, turn order, even spell design don't really line up with that. But in terms of kind of the feel, speed, we're beating D&D and Pathfinder. Like, we go play at tournaments or at conventions or these kinds of things, and the D&D and Pathfinders are seeing our turns flying by. while they're waiting for their turns.
Yeah, no, definitely, because I actually helped play tested some last year, and it
Yeah.
goes really fast. Like we did that. The last thing we did is where we were fighting. What was it, like 40 orcs and like their warlords and like orc wizards and all stuff, and we were like defending this gatehouse.
Yeah.
And we got that done in like 2-3 hours. And
And you guys killed like 50 or 60 opponents, multiple waves, varying stat blocks.
So it plays really fast.
Well, let's hang on that for a bit then, I guess. What owes to this like fast-paced gameplay, I guess? Like why does it work the way that it works, and how does it work the way it works?
Sure. Couple things. One, we wanted players to pay attention, and we in our playtesting found that players really like the maneuver mechanic. That helps turns move because people aren't screwing around, they're paying attention. Maneuvers are a once around kind of action, but a subtype called a maneuver that a player can take to interfere with combat in some way. It could be to make an attack more lethal. It could be to block an incoming blow. It could be to cast certain spells like a haste or a counter spell, but it lets you interrupt what is going on in some way. But you only get one around, so you have to kind of pick and choose what you use.
Is it one per side, or is it one per player? How does
one per player, and one per NPC? So like villains could have them too.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we also wrote our spells as attack spells. So like Fireball is an attack roll applied against everyone in the radius. And then if you roll a natural 12, you crit and do double damage. This helps speed up combat because instead of a bunch of saving throws with different modifiers, you're rolling a single attack roll against a hard number. And also it speeds it up because you can crit and kill them faster sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you're going to crit more likely. There's a greater chance of getting a 12 than a 20, obviously.
Absolutely. So, yeah. And our swords actually have an ability called Impact where they crit on an 11 or a 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then another thing that we did is we changed. We have a variant kind of on side initiative, I guess, which is, that's right, James. That's right, Brian James. That is correct. Siege of Bellingham. How our turn order works is all the players, when combat breaks out, all the players and the DM roll a reflexes check, so a d12 plus the reflexes. High score goes first, and then you go around the table from there. It doesn't matter what the other numbers were. The reason for that is you wind up over time, over a bunch of different combats, with basically the same outcomes as you would get if you were individually rolling for initiative. Because at any one point over the course of a given game or campaign, any player could win. And in general, at least if you're fighting one boss monster, it'll either be some of the players, boss monster, the rest of the players, or it will be monster then players, or it'll be players then monster. Mm-hmm. What we did is simply play with the fact that a lot of people have played board games and card games where there's a turn order that goes around the table, and just use that base assumption for turn order in our game. And that really helps it flow faster, not only because you're not spending time writing down who got initiative in what order, but also because all the players know who's next.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've personally, as I've come deeper into old school games, I'm obviously like a big fan of 0E and stuff like that. Like, or even Classic Traveler, where there's really no initiative at all. There's no initiative in Classic Traveler. I'm not a fan of individual initiative in most cases. I think it has its place in certain games, but I'm a fan of side initiative. And really, I guess what you're describing ends up sort of being like side initiative in a way. Do you roll initiative every round, or is it just for that? Is it the same initiative every combat?
It's the same initiative every combat, and again, that's really about getting the game to continue and not slowing things down. Mm-hmm. Now, occasionally, a new combat will break out right after one has ended. Like, for example, an enemy may be 3 rounds out or something, or 2 rounds out, and you kill everyone on the battlefield. Well, then when those reinforcements arrive, new battle, roll.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But other than that, we also wrote abilities as cleanly as we could to make it so that It takes less space on the page, and again, to help the game flow faster. So take a D&D Lich. It's going to tell you to look up spells on other pages in most editions. Our spells are embedded on the page. You can read all of his abilities right there. The same is true for all of the monsters, all the spellcasters, all the NPCs that we provide, and for the beasts. Like everything you need is on that one page, so that you aren't flipping back and forth in order to play our game. And again, that's all about helping the game move along and have fun.
Yeah.
That sounds good. I like that. You know, there's only, I mean, these are all like checks and balances that you can put in place. I guess at the end of the day, though, there's still nothing you can do about that player that doesn't know what they're doing and isn't paying attention. But
I mean, there is some things. One, my game's lethal. They'll die.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that another reason why the game is fast? I was looking because I got the PDF and I was looking at it, and so I was looking at you calculate your hit points. So what you start with is 18 plus your fitness attribute. So
yep.
And then after that, like leveling up, it looks like you're only getting two hit points per level. So
that's correct.
It sounds like you start with a lot of hit points and then you don't get as much as the character advances in levels.
Yeah.
I haven't played that set though. That 18 doesn't really get you all that far either.
No.
So,
no,
and
18...
is that because crits are more likely, or is there like what's like the standard damage of like a longsword, I guess, or something like that?
So standard would be 1 die. In the case of a longsword, which is a two-handed sword, would be a D12 or a D10 for a Zweihander or a broadsword or something. D12, D10, somewhere in there. But if you get the weapon made of the right kind of material, that it's meant to kill the target you're trying to kill, it'll do 2 dice instead.
Okay.
And most of the martial type careers have some way to play with the damage. If it could be add a die of damage, could be do an extra attack, it could be have this attack ignore the protection of their armor. So our armor actually provides protection, kind of like in Traveler, where it'll actually reduce the damage that's coming in.
At least Mongoose Traveler, I believe, does that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's like a damage sponge, pretty much.
Yeah. So ours basically just if your armor has protection for that thing, you just take half damage from that type. So if you pick the right weapon for the right target, you'll basically ignore their armor. And so pick the right weapon for the right target, you're ignoring their armor and doing 2 dice, maybe 3. Pick the wrong weapon for the wrong target, and you're doing 1 die, and their armor's cutting that in half. And so...
was so good?
No, go ahead.
No, I remember my badass orc Viking dude. He got swarmed by zombies, and he was just immediately on the ground, like bleeding out. So yeah.
Yes. You did turn into zombie food for a bit.
Yeah. I managed to get up luckily, and orcs do have like a pretty powerful ability where if they don't take damage for like what was it, like 2 minutes, they basically Wolverine heal to full. So that helps, but yeah.
Yep. After a minute, the orcs recover, and that kind of hilariously in our game tends to make the orcs more cautious fighters in the sense that they don't really have healers; they just rotate troops.
Yeah,
who's in front?
Yeah, almost like like loading muskets. The first line fires, and then the other. yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I like I like games where like equipment matters because again, I like Classic Traveler, which it doesn't have the same weapon. Classic Traveler doesn't do the damage soak that Mongoose Traveler does, but you have that attack matrix, and it's like woohoo! I got this awesome rifle, but like now I'm fighting someone in combat armor, and it's not that great against it. It's not super awesome. So
yeah,
I like making equipment matter because that I don't know, it does it does add some balancing effect to it, especially with Classic Traveler because everything's a dead level. You're not leveling up ever.
Yeah. Now I don't know if you caught how the perk system works, John. You get those at every even level. That'd be right by character creation. So in that chapter.
Oh yeah, I see that. So yeah, you get level 1, and then but level 2 you get 2 hit points and a perk, and then level 3 you get what are perks and features, I guess? Because
they're right there on that same page. The perks are.
Okay.
So beyond first level, page number 15.
Mm-hmm.
If you look down, do you see what the perks do?
Yeah, so you have ability focus. Choose an ability with a limited number of uses. You gain 1 additional use of that ability. So educated, you gain a skill training and a new skill of your choice. Glutton for punishment, you gain +6 maximum hit points. Okay, so that's pretty good. So that kind of helps with the minimal +2. You can select that and get +6. Heavy hitter, choose a fighting style. Whenever you deal damage with a fighting style, add your combat bonus to the damage rolled. And then skill focus, pick a skill that you're trained in. That skill improves by +1. Well, and I assume like a +1 on a D12 is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's 8 or 9%.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just to answer your question. Features are chapter 6, and features generally add a new ability to your character. So the perks are changing a number on your character sheet, and the features generally are changing something you can do. So you could use a feature, for example, to get a new spell as a caster, or to get a new combat trick as a martial character.
Yeah, I got that whirlwind attack, I believe.
Yeah, or to get various other abilities. For example, you could become, if you have high enough willpower, you could become immune to compulsion using a feature. So there's a lot of choices there. And then advanced, we add something called capstones, and that basically gives you the effect of 2 features specifically tailored for your career, and each career gives you 2 capstones to pick from. And so you essentially get 2 very powerful level ups, one at character level 5 and one at character level 9 in advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I see here you have like essentially prerequisites or requirements to take something. So
yes,
this is a game, and I can see what you mean by like 3rd edition, where like players are probably more than likely they might have a vision of what they want to be as they kind of traverse down their advancement paths for their character a bit.
Yeah.
So if you're a 3E head and you're into that sort of thing, like this is gonna.
It's definitely a game for like those 3E players, maybe 4th edition players that love builds and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but, there's a big market for that, so not everyone's like a 0E cultist, John.
Yeah, sorry.
And I will point out that assuming you're somewhat decisive, you can build a character for our game in like 15 minutes, and that's if you've never even played it before. And I know that because I've done that with multiple people on stream who had never seen the game before.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 15 minutes. If you're super indecisive, that's on you. But if you can make choices, and so, but the thing is, in a very small amount of pages, we were able to give you a ton of character options just by letting you combine 2 careers and designing the game around that. There's 21 careers. That's 400 possible character combinations right there, ignoring the species, ignoring the features, ignoring the perks, just off the careers. And then that number triples when you get to capstones. So you went in advance. So you won't run out of playable characters or content you haven't tried just with that. And we wanted to make a game with a high level of replayability.
Yeah.
That
definitely.
You weren't like, oh, nope, we're done. I've done all the things.
I've actually played like kind of PC RPGs that have like a similar system. Like Grim Dawn is a good example. You start off with like a single class, and at level 10 you pick a second class, and depending on the combination, it makes kind of like a new class. So if you take like fighter and wizard, you become like a battle mage. If you take so like I kind of actually enjoy those kinds of systems. There's some MMOs that have a similar system.
Yep. Oh, Curse of Yig, you are exactly correct. They cannot interbreed. That is why we name them that.
Doesn't stop them from trying, though.
It does not stop them from trying.
What is this? What is this in reference to? Sorry, I missed Kursavig's comment here.
You said species, so they can't interbreed.
I see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you don't have half elves or anything like that?
We do not.
No.
We actually play tested with half races, and it did. It caused some logical problems that our play testers correctly pointed out. We discussed it and went, all right, fine, no half breeds.
Yeah.
I guess one thing, because I haven't played the game yet. Vic's played it. I've watched other people's play reports playing it, and one question I had was, I was watching some things, watching the play reports of it, and so I noticed it was pretty interesting, and I think people might either like this. I think people will probably like it, but or maybe some will have a problem with it, like the more mudcore style DMs. But I noticed things like they are slaying a Medusa or fighting like what in other games would usually be like higher level foes, and they're like at a lower level. Is this because is there like a level cap? Like what's the scaling like? How what
Yeah.
how long does it take to level up? Like
Sure.
if you're slaying like, and maybe it's people's perceptions, and I know you have like your own setting for the game as well, but like if they're slaying a Medusa at a lower level, and don't take this question the wrong way, but like where do you go from there as far as like foes beyond that?
Basic includes monsters primarily that level 1 to 4 characters can fight. Now some of them are suicidal fights, but you might win in the process of stumbling over your friends' bodies. But they're possible. There is one exception. The 360 hit point dragon probably will just kill them all. If they're level 4 and have the right gear, they might do it. But they'll probably all die. But that's intentional because we wanted to show you what a slightly higher level dragon might look like. Also, you can't randomly encounter him. If you do fight him, your DM did that to you, and you're welcome. He's not even on the random encounter table. But we designed the game and put monsters appropriate for the level 1 to 4 characters in basic. Now, it doesn't mean they're not a threat at higher level. They definitely can be. A Medusa can kill you with a glance if you're close enough. Turn you to stone, and you're toast unless someone takes out that Medusa. But you could make the save, in which case you have a chance to kill it. And so anyway, so that hopefully that answers the question. Advanced has a bunch more advanced monsters.
Well, I think what John's asking is kind of it kind of bucks the normal fantasy convention where it's like at level 1 you're fighting goblins, maybe level 3 you're fighting orcs, level 5 you're fighting trolls. So there's like kind of like this accepted progression, and then like level 10 that's when you run into Medusa. But in your game you can run into a Medusa at level 1. So like how does your setting handle that progression from like you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll jump back to that in just a second. So level up timing. You're gaining 2 to 4 experience points per session, typically, for finishing an adventure. And you will level up after 12 points, 12 experience points. There are little pips on the character sheet. You can literally fill in with a pencil if you want to. And then once you fill those in all the way, you hit the next character level and start again. So it's a fairly linear progression. It's not on a curve.
It's always going to be 12.
It's always going to be 12. Now we do provide a variant of experience in advanced, which is pretty simple to explain, and that is artifact-based experience rather than adventure-based. The main one is adventure-based. How hard was the adventure? 2 to 4 experience, right? Artifact experience is you get no experience for anything you do unless you capture an artifact from monsters or beasts. And then if you successfully do that, you get 2 experience per artifact, or 4 if you turn the artifact into a patron.
That's actually that's fun. I like that.
And that's kind of a play on like the old school method of gold for XP, where it kind of motivates
Yeah.
players to delve and go deeper.
Yeah, I like that.
Get more,
That's
get
fun.
more loot. You know,
We have
Okay.
we've play tested that, and yes, the play style definitely changes.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. That's a good way to go for the right adventuring party. And then to jump back to your question, we would prefer to have a living world in which there are consequences for your choices. So we gave you some safety rails in basic by not putting in the advanced monsters. But if you choose to buy our advanced book and play with it, a handful of monsters, well, more than that, a dozen monsters or so, are going to have a warning label that says something like inappropriate for a first level party or inappropriate for a first tier party. That's it. We have absolutely no attempt at making it fair.
Yeah.
Because that isn't how the world works. If you're an idiot who invades an empire with you and your 5 buddies, you should die.
Yeah.
The empire will kill you. Like, if you go into a dragon cave and you're level 1 and have no equipment to fight dragons, well, that happened.
Yeah.
The intent is not to provide a progression of monsters that you just can't encounter at low levels. No, you can. Try not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like coddle players. I don't do that either, even when I run like AD&D or 0E or anything like that.
I know from listening to your videos over the years.
Yeah, like you know, you're running through the wilderness and you run into a dragon. I'm sorry, you run into a dragon, or you run into, playing old school, for instance, you're a little party of, 10 guys, you got maybe 4 of you and 6 hirelings, and sorry, you ran into 300 orcs in a raiding party. That's just what happens. That's what I rolled. Sorry. So, I'm all about that.
Yeah.
But I guess like knowing more though too, because you start out with a decent-ish amount within the system itself of hit points, and then you're not really gaining a whole bunch after that.
Right. Unless you pick that over other options.
Yes, yeah. So you could have leveled up in theory like 2 or 3 times, and that monster that was deadly, I guess, at level 1 is going to still be fairly deadly at level 2, 3, and 4 still potentially.
Yes. What's the max level in Horde Wars again?
12. We did want to play with that number a bit.
Yeah.
Also,
at 12 you're probably like insanely badass. So
yeah. Also, our games basically the power level of the characters is something akin to a 3rd level D&D character, depending on the edition.
Yeah.
Until about a 15th level character. We're not really typically pushing you past that in either direction. We do have a hard mode option though for you Mudcore gamers. You are welcome to play hard mode, in which case you get 1 career, and oh man, you're gonna die.
Yeah. Well, I remember we were like level 3, and we killed like a bunch of scary vampires, and we killed a lich and like all that stuff. And level 3 in like an OSR game, you're not gonna fight a lich, but you can in Horde Wars. But it wasn't an easy fight by any means. But Horde Wars does give you some tools that help with that, like the different weapon elements and like all that stuff. So
well,
yeah.
If you're saying level 1, you're around a level 3 and maybe a traditional D&D game.
Yeah.
I'm assuming when you say that, like, you're not referring to like a WotC version. You're
I'm referring to kind of the
like
the
TSR.
You have. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're level 1, but it's more equivalent to like level 3, and then you're level 3 fighting a vampire, that's almost like being level 6. And my players in my my BX game were like levels 4 and 5 and 6 and fighting vampires, crapping their pants the whole time, but trying nonetheless. So
yeah.
That's correct, Malarkey. And let me see this other question. What does the whole you have to fight monsters? Oh, that's easy, because monsters want to eat you. Depending on the monster, goblins literally want to eat you. We don't. We disguise that information so that only adults will catch it, hopefully. but the goblins definitely reproduce by eating your bodies. We'll leave the rest to the imagination. But if you read our adventure, that is definitely what is happening.
We have a question here that's kind of relevant to it. What new species will we get to see in advance, if any, I guess?
Now, if you mean playable species, none. We are talking about doing an online supplement called Rarities and Oddities to include things like a Dompier, which is a
half vampire. Yeah.
Well, kind of.
Sort of. Yeah. If you're going the more traditional route, then yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But in modern parlance, it's Blade.
Yeah. Basically the lore I found, which looks like it'll work well, is what would happen if a pregnant woman became a vampire and then her child were born. And the Dompier are those children. Yeah, Blade.
Yeah.
And but that's a real thing from Eastern Europe. Like that's mythology goes back a few hundred years at least.
Oh yeah.
And so that's believable, but there wouldn't be like a civilization of them. There'd be like 10 in the world, like tops. And so Rarities and Oddities would be intended for really weird boutique, still playable species, as well as a few very rare and unique monsters. But as far as the monstrous species, tons, roughly double the number of beasts and monsters. In specific categories, I know it's double. In others, I'm currently editing that and doing rewrites like now. So I will know in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But about double.
Nice.
I think what Maliki was saying was for this comment here, because he said later. Where did I see it? I was more referencing D&D as a whole, the whole sphere, the hobby. But I think like what you said, like you're getting 2 to 4. You said 2 to 4 XP in the non-optional rules, the regular way. You're just getting it for completing an adventure.
Yes.
Playing the game. So they don't have to fight the monster if they don't want to. So he said something like, just because you come across a monster does not mean you have to fight it. And in old school D&D, you know, your goal is gold for XP. So like you can level up very easily without getting into combat if you're crafty enough. Mm-hmm. And I would assume that, you know, the motivation is still somewhat similar in your game, where you can level up quickly if you accomplish the quest.
Yeah, if you look in our sample adventures, so chapter 13, Adventure and Village, there's the sample adventure that you did the map for. And if you scroll past that sample adventure, where we kind of handhold you room by room and element by element, you then will come to a sample village, points of interest, and traveling merchants. Each of those boxes has a different quest it's adding. And a few of them, the one I'd probably point you to would be the Silver Flagon, have no combat at all required to resolve them.
Yeah. Also, when I played tested, there were like multiple fights that we ran away from because they were just scary and we were probably going to die, and we just hauled ass out of there. So yeah, it's not like 5e where it's like players are just almost feel obliged to like finish the fight.
Yeah, no. Sometimes running away is the correct plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I think the whole in you know, this kind of goes off topic. Well, it's what Maliki asked, but I think that happened when they started moving away from gold for XP and all that stuff, and just made it more about the adventure itself. And they maybe upped, you know, the XP you get from killing monsters a little and stuff. And you know, they made characters more powerful as well, so you could actually fight the monsters like, you know, regularly.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, how you motivate XP is a in a level-based game, in like Horde Wars or D&D or whatever game, it doesn't matter if it's level-based. XP is what is in a lot of ways the meta currency that motivates players to engage with the game and the setting in some capacity. You know, I had that trouble with Muckweedle where I was like, how do I how do I? Because it's not a dungeon delving game, so for me
Yeah.
it was like just lean into the human sacrifice, capture people for human sacrifice. That's how you
Yeah.
level up. So,
Oh,
Yeah, and you actually get more XP for that than killing them.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
actually incentivizes, to like keep stuff alive and capture it. Which
Yeah.
I like that.
we got a couple of comments there from Patty and Brian. So the affliction mechanic plays with that. We are using a D12 for our primary resolution die, right? You're rolling D12s to attack. You're rolling D12s for skill checks. So we were able to take things like level drain or exhaustion, and instead of applying a penalty like a negative modifier or a roll 2 dice, take the lower result, or that kind of thing, we actually embedded the penalty in the die size. So if you have a level of affliction from exhaustion or level drain or whatever, you roll a D10 instead, and suddenly you can't crit. You could still succeed. You could still hit stuff, but you can't crit anymore. You're too weak. And then it goes down to a D8, D6, D4, and then you're unconscious or dead, depending on what exactly caused you to gain 5 levels of affliction.
That's neat. I like that. That's a nifty way of keeping the math simple. Just roll a smaller die. You kind of visually see that like your chances of succeeding are going to get smaller and smaller. What are the target numbers like on these D12 rolls for succeeding at stuff?
Target numbers are 6 to 16. Generally speaking, it'll be 6 to 12, but there are certain monsters or certain things you might try to do where there's a higher number required. A Banshee, for example, has a 14 defense.
Okay. So yeah, you're at a D4. You're probably not doing anything to that.
No. But you could hit a goblin with a D4. That would be possible.
Okay.
But if you want to check out one, John, page 89 is written. I don't know what it would say in your, depending on what reader you're using.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on the 89.
Yeah. If you want to maybe display that for them, but I was hoping you'd read that dragon and let me know what you think of it. It's just as an example of a Horde Wars monster.
All right, so defense 8, hit points 240, fly speed 8, combat spaces. So let's talk about movement. What are combat spaces?
Combat spaces are 2 meters or 2 yards. We are assuming those are roughly equivalent, and it's to make our game as playable as possible for our European and Canadian friends.
So about 6.5 feet per combat space.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm assuming these modifiers here are to the D12 roll.
So
those modifiers.
Yeah. So his fitness, senses, and willpower, that's basically his saving throws. And then his skills are the modifiers on his dice rolls for skill checks and attacks.
Okay. So amphibious creature can breathe underwater, armored hide, absorption. Armored hide absorbs the first damage that you would take on an attack each round. Trample, you have moved at least 6 combat spaces in a straight line this round. You deal an extra die of damage on all attacks. Maneuvers, bite. So just 2d10 damage. So that's enough to take out a level 1 character, probably.
Yeah, plus the trample. So if
yeah.
he moves straight at you,
Stunning breath. So this is a breath weapon. When you deal lightning damage to a creature, you use stunning breath to have him skip his next action. That sucks. Claws 2d8. Slashing. Critically hit on 11 or 12. Dragon Ward. Range to succeed is DC 10. So that's at the target that they need to hit.
They have to equal or exceed that, yeah, with their willpower.
The victim, okay.
Yep.
Lightning breath, 45, 68 lightning damage. That's pretty terrible. And gale force winds. So medium range radius, next 24 range. Yeah, I mean, so 240 hit points. I can kind of look at games at this point and like do the math in my head.
And he's got 2 actions. I don't know if you
math
saw
in your head. You do
well,
math?
I can do it poorly. I can look at
vibes.
Well, vibes are part of it too. Based on what you're telling me, like, yeah, this would be pretty terrible to fight. Your lower level. I wouldn't.
No. Our party last year, we could have taken that shit.
Yes, you could have,
Yeah,
but
we were
not
pretty
at level
badass.
1. Yeah, so that's just an idea of some of our monster design. Like you see that trample ability. We've got abilities that work like that help incentivize monster behavior.
Mhm.
And each of our dragons is a unique named individual. We're not doing dragons as like, you fought a red dragon today. No, you're fighting a specific dragon. And he or she has specific properties and traits, some of which are just true of all dragons, but many of which are specific to that dragon. And it means that if you go into a fight unprepared against a dragon, you'll probably die. And you should probably do some research ahead. For example, one of the dragons in basic can make it so that you cannot breathe in a certain radius around him at all because he's releasing volcanic fumes. Knowing that ahead is good.
No, that's cool. Like naming the dragon like that makes it unique. It makes it so that you're embedding setting into rules as well, which is cool.
Thank you. Yeah. And yes, there are reaction rules in the sense that we have randomized starting distances for random encounters. Yeah. Also, we tried to make sure they were pronounceable. No, 13 consonants in a row like a D&D at one actually was. I just...
You could just be like Venture and put like apostrophes everywhere in there. That's fine.
Just make a clicking sound when you see the apostrophe. You'll know.
Yeah.
Redcaps has a question here. I think that'd be good to get to. It says, coming into the stream late, given the name of the game, is there unique mechanics for small party versus an actual horde of monsters? To me, it sounds like they're trying to get at like,
yes.
Is there scaling into like a more war game element?
Oh yeah,
of mass combat.
Vic probably can answer this better because he has seen it from a player perspective. Vic, how did you handle hordes of enemies?
I killed them. I do remember the zombies, and they each kind of like fed off each other. So because there were like multiple of them, like they got like bonuses to their attack, if I remember right. And that's why they brought me down so quickly, because my character got swarmed, and then instead of like just like the normal like weak ass zombie attack, it was like suddenly like scaled up massively because it was like 20 of them.
Right.
And all of a sudden I have like 20 zombies munching on me while I'm like laying there like, hey guys, a health potion please. Like yeah. And then kind of the same happened when we were like fighting those the horde of orcs towards the end, but I was like way more badass at then, so I wasn't as worried about it. I was like slaying them left and right, but yeah.
Right. So basically the maneuvers help. The fact that your armor actually protects you and doesn't just change the defense number helps. But also, we've designed a lot of the horde type monsters specifically for that style of play. So, John, if you want to pick something like a zombie or a goblin or a skeleton or one of those kind of general types of monsters and jump over to that.
So is it
you're in dragons right now, and they're alphabetical more or less.
We'll go to goblins is probably the closest one next.
Sure.
Right, yeah. So here, goblin,
a goblini.
Indeed.
Goblin cannibal, goblin warrior, goblin sneak, goblin taskmaster. You got lots of goblins.
We do, and we try to do that with a lot of horde type monsters. And if you look, they're designed for a party to be able to fight large numbers of them, in part because the weaker ones don't have as many attacks as the stronger ones. Mm-hmm. So like a goblin cannibal, sneak, or warrior can only do one attack. A goblin cannibal is weaker than the other two, both in his damage output and his hit points. The other two are a little more skilled. But if you keep going through the goblins, then you'll get to ones that can make multiple attacks or cast spells or have additional special abilities and stuff. And so we built it that you could have, 30 goblins on the battlefield and still fight very efficiently. I actually played a game with a guy named Brian, not the Brian who's watching right now, another Brian, in person. It was his first time running Horde Wars. Nate and I went to go support him. He's in our area loosely, and my character died gloriously after slaying like 25 or 30 goblins in the encounter he was running. Personally, not collectively with the rest of the party, personally. And I was a level 1 character that he made. I didn't make him.
It kind of reminds me of, because I played a lot of 40 back in the day, and I remember the minion mechanic, and I remember thinking that was really cool. How there was like, it made you feel really powerful. It definitely like made you feel like Conan the Barbarian or something like that. And I know people hate 40. I look back on 40 and I'm like, yeah, it wasn't that great. But I remember that mechanic of itself, that idea of like these minion creatures that kind of all together have like the same stats as like a normal goblin, let's say, but they all have like, they're all going to get killed in one hit. Like if you land a hit, it's dying. And I just remember running games and my players just thought it was so much fun when there's like 20 goblins like scrambling up a hill towards them and they're just like chopping them down left and right.
Absolutely.
I'm actually a big fan of that too. And I'm actually putting that in one of my next games, but that's a different story. But yeah.
And so this setup, our design, plays with that idea, but gives them enough hit points that depending on what you're fighting with, the cannibal, the warrior, the sneak, they may live through your attack. And they have ways they can do extra damage to you if they set up right. And so there's a little more give and take. Like you could totally slaughter your way through these guys with a high level character, or even a mid level character, and the right weapons. But sometimes you'll fail to cut them down and they will hit back hard.
So what's the specific rule for like that scaling though? So what if you do get attacked by like 20 goblins and they each, they get their attack off, like I assume just with the zombies, it's 20 goblins stabbing a dagger at you.
Yeah,
it's gonna so how does that rule
the main difference there, Vic, is one, the goblins are doing damage that your armor might protect you from.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of these zombies were doing toxic damage to you.
Yeah.
And then also the zombies have a special ability that basically says, as long as you're next to that zombie and another zombie, he does an extra die of damage.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. The goblins don't have that. The goblin special ability is a lot goofier. They're so greedy, they will actually run after treasure to the point like there's a saving throw for them. And if they fail, they just run after it, to the point where I've had players chucking gold down a well just to kill goblins.
Yeah, I mean, it works. Lemmings.
Here we go. I wanted to find the zombies.
Oh, yeah.
The zombonis, yes.
The jabronis.
Yeah. And so the zombies scale up in threat compared to the goblins, not because the zombies have better stats. They don't. But because their abilities are more dangerous to the average character.
Oh, yeah, I saw the flanker.
Flanker plus their toxic bite. Yep.
Yeah.
Though good night, Winston. A dwarf actually would be quite resistant to that, because dwarves in our game have protection from toxic by default.
It happened twice in a row.
I try and put it up. I try and put it up, and Vic's trying to put it up, and then we just end up canceling each other out.
Yeah, we did it twice in a row there. It was funny.
I should just let you be the tech guy, like you got it under control. I shouldn't try and do your job. Sorry, Blackwall. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just saying that a dwarf, actually, unlike the orc he was playing, wouldn't find zombies a lot more threatening because dwarves have protection from toxic in our game, whereas the other playable species do not, and so they do not like zombies.
Yeah, and armor in general isn't probably gonna protect you from toxic unless you got like the magical armor of anti-toxicity. Yeah. But yeah.
And we do have I think 20 magic armors available in the game. Another 20. Basically, we have 86. I think we have 90 pre-made artifacts in basic.
Yeah.
The number should about double for advanced. And then we also have a generator to build your own artifact weapons. And that generator will make thousands of possible combinations.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well, I guess that was like the one thing that slowed down the game was like rolling all the treasure, because sometimes all the treasure we got, that took a while, but it was still fun. And then, we would alternate rolls. It's like, okay, it's your turn to roll for the treasure now. And, it's still like a group activity. And then, it's like, oh, we got like this perfect weapon for like, this character. And, so yeah, it was still really fun.
Even when I do D&D, I let the players roll for the treasure.
Yeah.
Just because it can be a slog sort of thing, no matter what edition of D&D you're playing. So, letting the players roll it, it's almost like they're searching the horde to find what's good. And it's like, oh, you found this,
It just adds to excitement, I think.
Yeah, it keeps you engaged instead of just talk amongst yourselves while I roll what the treasure is. I do find that letting them roll is, in general, hides that clunkiness that you can't really get around when you have treasure tables. Like they have to be that way.
And did you see the random loot generator, John? It's on page 146. This is each player whose character survived rolls on this once.
Let's see, 146. So random, this one here.
Yep. And that determines what stuff you're getting in on the later tables.
Oh, okay.
So you roll say it was a hard difficulty encounter, you roll your D20, you roll an 18, you found 2 general artifacts. You roll a 6, you found 2 treasure chests, so on.
Yeah. And then you roll for the treasure chest or the artifact weapon, and then it goes on and on and on, and then you have like awesome treasure.
One hopes. Sometimes you just find some belt pouches.
We did pretty good with treasure.
You did.
We got some good shit.
Yeah, that's cool. I love tables. I love treasure tables, and I like randomizing treasure tables and whatnot.
Oh, because then for your home game, you probably will like the rugs and wall hangings table.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
this one here.
Yeah, you are actually rolling for the artwork.
Yeah, we did that when we defeated those vampires and the Lich, I believe, and we got like some what are they called? The wall hangings. There's an official name for them, and I can't remember.
Tapestry.
Yeah, tapestries with like his life history on it and like all that stuff.
Yep,
that's cool.
But they actually rolled relevant stuff to the vampires.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think that's neat. I like random treasure tables like that, though. I like random treasure tables in general. I know some GMs are like, I'm going to try and curate the tables or curate the treasure they find, because I know this one player wants like this kind of weapon, and I don't do that. You just get what the tables give you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, I just feel like, as the game master, I like emergent story. I like to learn some things with the players.
Sure, I do too.
So I'm going to be including a paragraph in our game master section in advance. I think I already wrote it, actually, but either way, that talks about how to randomize like intelligent monster or intelligent NPC behavior if there's more than one realistic possibility based on who they are and what they're doing. For example, minor one, if you bump into a dragon in the woods, there is a chance he just ate. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a chance he is hungry and wants to eat you.
Yeah.
Probably a higher chance of that. And then there's a chance he's up to something else. Perhaps he is planning to try to acquire you as minions. Or maybe he's, I don't know, killing some deer, whatever he might be up to.
That's kind of what the old reaction walls try to simulate.
Yeah, and you roll to see, all right, what is he doing? So I've been doing that for a while now, but I'd like to explain how to do that for other game masters.
Yeah, I mean, there's precedents for that. Like even in 0E, there's rules for like, is the dragon asleep or is it awake? Did the dragon fly a certain amount of distance? Because if it did fly, it has to sleep for like 2 weeks straight, and that's lucky for the players. You can sneak on in and and then there's rules for like in 0E, for capturing dragons and what their value is. So
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, that there's a precedence for that, and players I think love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
No matter what the game is, they love to see that kind of stuff. Right?
And it's exciting for me, but what I actually do is I have them roll the reaction roll when I do that.
Yeah.
I'll use a D4 and be like, all right, the thing that's most likely will be like a 1 or a 2. And then the other 2 possibilities will be a 3 or a 4. You roll it. And it seems to actually really drive player engagement because they feel like they're controlling it, even though they aren't really. Um, and then looks like we have a couple questions. So Patty, there will not be more supplements coming out before Advanced, but there is one if Advanced is financially successful, as in breaks even and also makes some money, then we would be doing the rarities and oddities. If it only breaks even, then we would be doing our next game that we already have in development and is being play tested, which is called, I think, Heroes of Franklin City. Heroes of Franklin City. And then we have another game after that that's also in development. So we would be recycling the money if it only breaks even. If we lose money, we totally still would launch the superhero game. We would just offer a basic version first to help fund it. The other question, are you going to playtest Advanced on Gilded? So playtesting for Advanced is done. I had been playtesting it on Gilded over the last year on the Basic Experts server. I'd also done that on
You have your own server. You have your own server now too, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. But we had
Zubabble.
100.
Rebelling from us.
I think we had 100 total playtesters for it.
Nice.
So
that's not bad. Yeah.
So it got playtested pretty heavily. Just you see that, Vic?
Oh, the one Horde Wars Modern One. Well, you're working on your own Modern One, I believe. So.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't mind. We have actually talked a little bit.
Yeah, of consulting. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Let's see.
So no supplements unless, well, Patty, technically it's not a supplement, but there are some people, I'm hoping you're one of them, working on some anthology projects. And if they get them done to me in a formatable form, then we would consider, we are looking at doing that, basically offering a group of adventures written by people who've bought our game and enjoy playing it and wrote an adventure for it. As a packet that you can just pick up.
Well, I did write Makuhito. I wrote the Gods of Forbidden North. I've written a lot of stuff by now, so you know.
Yeah, so I think that'd be really fun.
Have you considered like?
Nick Clammy invented.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I put up on screen. That's what I was referencing. But have you considered like once, because I gather that you're kind of like testing the waters right now. Have you considered that once your game is like financially sound, you're like, hey, this is like people really like this, it's successful. Have you considered maybe doing like a Kickstarter or something?
Well, so what we might do that. We might do that either through Kickstarter or Indiegogo or possibly even on my comic. Apparently that's allowed there, which I was surprised by. But I would rather up front, if we're able to do it, we're on track currently. I would rather pay for our first print run ourselves with some help, perhaps from a friend or two, and have the product on hand before doing anything like that. And I would also like to get that get sales going before we do anything like that.
Yeah.
In part because I want to make sure our existing customers have a chance to. Well, we talked about that. Have a chance to get a discount, at least on the digital version.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. On the whole, I mean, Nate and I think might just try to do it ourselves. We have been selling physical product, and if anyone wants to order it, you can contact me either through Twitter or you can email me I believe it's Horde Wars at blackwallgames.com is the email. And it's just we're slowly moving physical product online, but in person we've sold out at most of the events we've gone to.
Nice.
Which is good. But we're not
Yeah.
bringing like hundreds of books. We're bringing like 10 or 30 or whatever.
Well, just me personally, like I use Kickstarter because, you know, art is expensive and I want cool art. So I need funds for art. So that's what I use Kickstarter for. So, you know, like eventually you could be like, hey guys, here's Horde Wars, but like with, you know, amazing art. Like, you know, so, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing a Kickstarter just for that. I mean, I see plenty of companies like do stuff like that. So,
Well, we could look at doing that also for the Rarities and Oddities supplement.
Yeah.
That one is additional art models currently have. So that's why Horde Wars are financially successful to pay for it. But yeah, we could look at a Kickstarter for that. And we might do a Kickstarter or that type of thing, but only if it would be a limited amount of people who could pledge on purpose, at least at a certain level, so that we could fill all of their orders immediately with books we actually have.
Mm-hmm.
Not, you know, you'll get it in 6 to 15 months or whatever. No. That's or
I think
years in some cases. It's just terrible.
I think some people are used to that at this point. Like,
I
don't know. For me, like I'm not that I'm struggling fulfilling Muckweedle, but like I'm just like running into these issues with getting a file set up for print and Affinity and everything. So, you know, it's a process. Like it's a scary process sometimes too. Like just throwing that out there as like a tempering sort of thing as well. I think some people think like crowdfunding something is easy, or it's just like I put a thing out there and then people give me money and it's great. Like it's stressful and it's like
the first time,
so I got like gray hairs in my beard over this, you know, like it's not.
The first one I did was probably some of the most stress I've had in my life, and now I'm giving up to do it again next month. So hey, yay! I'm really looking forward to that, except not at all.
And do make sure that you're tagging me in those, Vic. So
definitely.
To help share.
That's also like the big part of the stress is like you don't know how it's gonna go. You could completely fail. You could completely blow up. It could go each way. So yeah, I know.
Yeah, and Patty there is correct. Punctuality is less and less common, sadly.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also part of like, you know, I'm already a little bit late on Muckweedle, but I'm not going to be super late. But I think some people fund stuff and their product isn't finished yet. And in my mind, like my book and the art needed to be done. So it was like a week after, you know, the Kickstarter ended, the PDF went out, and then not long after that, the pod went out, print on demand went out. So it was like, you know, I wanted it. I have the same mentality. I wanted to get it in. I wanted to get it into people's hands as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Vic, if you had a question.
No, I think it's fine if you're not completely done yet, because I'm not completely done on Modern Necessities yet, the update, all that stuff. But you know, I do have a little bit of a track record, and at least, you know, people do know that the core, like the original book, is done, because it's just an update. So as long as, you know, people have something to like cling to, it's like, yeah, this person, you know, isn't a complete flake, I think you're fine.
Yeah. And you know, I've we've already got about a third or half the art in hand as well for advanced.
Yeah.
We've hired 3 artists, one of whom I have to get back a hold of so I can mail him a check. Another one I got to mail a check to next week, later this week. Anyway, we've got artists hired for that. And we might try and find 1 or 2 more just to keep things moving along quickly. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how that's going. And that's really the wiggle room in that, and how long printing takes can vary. In our when we'll have the physical product ready, we're looking at probably 8 to 14 months, aiming for 10. But if I would do a Kickstarter or something, it would be after we already we have the product, not
I guess one question I have too, and maybe others that are creators out there might be interested in that as well. Because you kind of mentioned it. What is your view on like third-party content for Horde Wars?
Oh yeah. So on the whole, we don't object. I mean, obviously, we'll object if you claim our game is yours.
So you hear that, Vic?
Yeah, that's right, Victor.
Yeah.
But
he did write it though. I mean,
Yeah, that's true. John just did the art, and not even that's not that great, but
but
passable.
but beyond that, we're pretty friendly to it. However, we would want before your unless you're just claiming it's compatible. I mean, that's probably fine. But if we're going to endorse it and like help you market it, we want to make sure that it's solid and has actually been play tested.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm out then.
We'll just make you play it, man.
Yeah.
But that's I think that's really important because we spent quite a long time. We spent about half a decade refining this as a game system that we're working on multiple products for. And I would hate to endorse a third-party supplement that just didn't understand how like the math worked in the game, or was just chock full of errors, or that kind of thing, or for that matter, was filled with content that will still get you arrested in most of the U.S. Any of that, like, no, we want to actually see it before.
Are you gonna actually have like a license, or is it just like, hey, if you are gonna do something, like show it to us, and if it's cool, we'll promote it. If it's not cool, we'll ignore it wholehearted.
That's correct. That is exactly right. As far as licensing goes, how to phrase this? Game mechanics, loosely speaking, can't be copyrighted.
Yeah.
And if you copy our work whole cloth, we're already registered with the U.S. Copyright Office.
Yeah.
We would win that lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to make stuff that's compatible with our game, we want you to do that. Go for it. Just if you straight rip our text, no.
I'm more thinking things like, some people might want to write adventures or things like that.
You want people to do that.
What about offering like an SRD though? Like, because sometimes it is useful to maybe straight up whip off text, because there's only so many ways you can describe a mechanic in your own words.
Let me be clear. You can take our mechanic descriptions. That's not a problem.
Yeah. Oh, just the flavor text. Okay, I get that. But that falls under I forgot the legal term for it, but that's like different from the rules. But
like product identity, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, the product identity stuff you would need to clear with us specifically, but otherwise, we want as many people making stuff as possible. Really, I have somewhere between 3 to 5 third-party people right now writing adventures, and I'm hoping that they will actually get them formatted and over to me so that we can go through them, make sure they're all formatted properly, like to match each other, and do an anthology. How quickly they get that done is entirely out of my control. They're third-party people who decided they wanted to do that. But if they do, we'd love to help promote their products as well.
Yeah, I get you.
Do you guys have any plans for you talked about some like a treasure book or something like that? Do you guys have plans for like a detailed setting book, a campaign setting book, or
the campaign setting details will be in a chapter in advanced, and that's about the intended extent of that. We want a world where there's a lot of space for the game master to develop things, so we have 8-9 nations of various sorts with different government structures and stuff that you'll have information to explore. But beyond that is like some wildlands or the ocean, and then whatever you want to put there. We want a large portion of the world open to the game master to add his or her own content.
I guess we could,
Question. Sorry, I see this question here. Do you gotta get my okay, so both basic and advanced are just so if you buy advanced, you will have all the rules from basic, a few of which will have minor changes. You'll be playing the same game. The biggest change that I am aware of is a feature that is currently in basic, in advanced will be offered as a perk instead. Pretty minor change.
So I've kind of got a random question. So you mentioned you've been playtesting this for like half a decade.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're working hard on like the advanced version and stuff.
Yep.
I know John and me personally. We're very creatively all over the place. We easily get bored, even if we're like working hard on a project. We'll write like 70 pages in a week, and then a week later, we're just like, I don't even feel like working on this anymore. I want to do something else. So how do you handle that? Like, do you have like side projects that you like kind of like alternate between, or are you just completely focused on this?
Yes. So Horde Wars actually started as a side project, right?
Yeah.
So Nate and I began working on this game system, right? And we built it for sci-fi. And what we were struggling with was the character ability. We actually have had for years now a pretty solid set of space combat rules that could handle like 50 ships with I think 6 or 7 players battling it out in like an hour and a half.
Nice.
Which was fun. That's good, but we were struggling with character abilities, and so when Nate was out of town one week, I wrote like half of Horde Wars, just to get my brain in a different space to think about the mechanics in a different way. And that really helped. And then we had our playtesters try it out. They liked it so much, we decided to develop that. They liked the medieval stuff better.
Yeah.
And the reality is, medieval fantasy has a much higher market share. There's more.
No.
Buy that.
You're telling me.
Sci-fi least popular. Superhero, there's some. So we basically just reoriented our whole release and design schedule, where we're basically releasing fantasy in the form of Horde Wars, followed by superhero, followed by sci-fi. Sci-fi actually has the smallest audience, so we need to have kind of a bigger market share, relatively speaking. We won't have a big one at all. We're a little two-man company. We have to have a big enough share that people who like the other games will buy the sci-fi one. Otherwise, that's going to bomb because it's a sci-fi game.
You're telling me, for the most part, nobody cares about modern fantasy as much as I do. But I don't know. I'm sticking with it. I enjoy it.
That's the middle one. The the superhero one is near future, and so there's a lot of modern fantasy elements in there.
Yeah, that's true.
We just stayed away from magic. That's a pretty clear differentiation between Horde Wars and the superhero one.
I think Crafty says like it's too bad that sci-fi is so lacking in the RPG space, and
I agree.
There's a few that do really well though.
Yeah, there's definitely a vacuum of sci-fi players. Like I have Atomic Punk, and I'm working on Atomic Punk 2240, which is like the expanded, bigger version of it. And people seem to like it, and I love Classic Traveler. Like Classic Traveler, I'm like 0E Classic Traveler, and then like my stuff, is the games that I love. And everyone I've shown like Classic Traveler to, I feel like when they try sci-fi, they generally like it. Because I've only ever had fun running like Classic Traveler. But I don't know. They just got to try it. I think it's just people feel comfortable in fantasy. That's part of it. But.
Yeah, and we did play test the sci-fi game fairly heavily. It uses the same core mechanics for the character stuff, and I think it will do well. But the lack of buyers in general for sci-fi means it's got to be the last release of those three.
Yeah.
And then after that, we also have done some work on a board game. I'm not sure if we're gonna continue that, but we might. And then we have several other genres that I think this game system would do well in. But we really like those three. Nate and I already play other games in those genres, so
That's where I'm at. Like, I like this genre, but I don't think I could do it better than this other game that I like that's already in it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It's like,
I have that problem a lot too.
do I even want to bother? But Redcaps has a question here. A question for all three of you. Do you think having a publisher constantly putting out new systems / games may or may not be connected to previous games, I'm assuming, harms the game rather than building on existing? And I guess what do you mean? Like, is if I, if you have like 5e and then you have like 5e 1920s and 5e whatever, are you talking about something like that? If WotC were to do something like that, or are you just talking about like maybe they come out with 3 games that are completely different mechanics, I guess, different systems altogether?
I think he's asking about different systems, just what he wrote.
Systems games. Okay. Yeah. You're right. For me, like, I have Cowpunchers and I have my white box stuff like Makuhito, and I have Atomic Punk. And for me, like, I feel pretty confident. Like, those are the 3 things that I'm interested in, and I want to make content for those 3 things going forward and support those things. Like in the past, I've written some Cowpunchers, adventures and things like that.
Yeah, I've read a little of those. Those are good.
Yeah, and I've done other things for like I'm redoing Atomic Punk because I want to make it better. I want to do like supplements for Makuhito and everything, and maybe kind of link it into my white box Zero chainmail clone and stuff like that. So sure. I'm interested in those 3 things, and I'm pretty content to. I feel content in myself right now. Like, I have those 3 things, and I want to get them sort of established, and then see where it goes from there with those 3 things. I'm kind of like at that point.
I think for us indie publishers, it's fine to have like different irons in the fire, so to speak. Like I think it's almost kind of expected that we experiment and we just follow our various whims and whatever. But it might be less of a benefit for like established publishers that are known for something. So WotC is known for 5e. If WotC suddenly comes out with like a completely different RPG that isn't 5e, I'm not sure. It might be popular just because it's WotC, but it might not reach the same heights as 5e because that's not what they're known for. If you know what I mean? Like I don't know, kind of It's like Free League is known for their system, and they use that for everything. If they just like do some random shit, like I'm not sure. I don't know.
It
has to be
not making sense, but
it has to be something special at Free League because like they, like the One Ring, for instance, isn't the Year Zero engine, but like they published that as a publisher. But obviously that's special. It has Lord of the Rings attached to it. So
I will say the 3 games that Nate and I are working on are all using the same core game engine, so they are technically compatible. We don't intend for you to do that mostly, but you could take a knight from Horde Wars and go gallivanting off into the sci-fi or the superhero game once you have those. Is that a good idea? I mean, probably not. You'd be a knight in a world with guns or lasers, but I mean,
but depends what the kind of knight. If you're like some King Arthur knight with a magic sword, that sounds pretty superhero to me. That sounds Marvel to me.
And the answer, there was a question earlier asking about the kind of sci-fi, not space wizards, to answer your question. My co-author is an actual physicist who teaches at colleges and universities. So ours would be, while still a fantastical sci-fi, a bit more grounded than something like Star Wars.
Let's see. I need to catch up on the questions here.
High Crusade RPG. Yes, you could play the High Crusade. That is technically true.
Yeah.
Let's wrap. We do have Crusaders in Horde Wars.
Brian James says I've never tried Traveler yet. I'm trying to get my Traveler game back on the back in the game here. I got sick and then it kind of fell away, but I wanted trying to get it back to
yeah, I've got Traveler back there behind me on those shelves, just one over. But
I got my original box set, so
beautiful. That's cool, man.
Just need to add suppressors and it's good.
Yeah, that's the homebrew rule.
The only book around that age is Rule Cyclopedia, I think, which I read cover to cover while waiting to testify in court, and then they never needed me. I was just stuck there all day.
Yeah, well, you read the Rule Cyclopedia. It's not a loss. So
yeah.
That's true. It was good, and it's not its layout, but its general intent is what designed us, or what inspired us to design Horde Wars the way we are, where we're intending to give you the whole game in one book, or in the case of Horde Wars Basic, the whole 1 through 4 level game in one book, where you have everything you need to play, a bunch of different scenarios, a bunch of different characters.
Yeah,
and you don't need tons of supplements. We don't want to do that.
That's how I make my games. I like the Desert Island sort of book, but Redcaps followed up, said, I guess the reason for asking is sometimes not indicating any of you do this. Yeah, sure. Whatever, buddy. Just kidding. This publisher moves on to a new game and support kind of stops or for old as they creatively switch around.
I get that.
I get that. And that's frustrating because, I know people, for instance, really like Cowpunchers, and it's like I really want to go back and provide more support for that. And Vic and I are actually talking about doing like a modern game, modern supernatural game, investigative kind of horror game set in the 90s that would be like X-Files-y, using the Cowpunchers rules and working together on that at some point. So it's like I want to go back and like provide support for that game, and new Atomic Punk's coming out. I want to do that. I actually plan on maybe doing a license for Atomic Punk and probably Makuhito as well, because I like you, Blackwall. I want to support other people.
Yeah.
Making stuff for. I'm like flattered when someone wants to make something for something I made. I'm deeply humbled and flattered when someone does that.
Humble you.
Yeah. Well, and as you probably saw, if not, I saw you picked up Horde Wars probably to look at it and stuff today. Anyone who's buying our book digitally is getting an invite to our Gilded server, and so if you decide to go there and play, or if you decide to go there, you're invited to play with us in one shots that we have scheduled. They're first come, first served. You also can talk directly with me. With Nate, with actually, I think 2 or 3 of our artists are on there now. So you can talk with people directly involved with the game. So that should help some if you're worried about like ongoing support. You can talk to us directly.
Yeah. Well, to kind of answer that question from my perspective, so for me personally, my creativity is very cyclical. So, I might have like months at a time where I'm like very into like 5e and I want to like work on my 5e modern stuff, and I might write like adventures or like extra classes and stuff like that. And then, for months I might be more into my old school essential stuff. And then, after that I might be more into my custom white box game that I'm developing. So it's like, yeah, you might have to wait a year for like something that you bought previously to get some support, but eventually I'll get back to it.
Oh, awesome, Matt. Glad to hear it.
For Cal here, I would say wait for 2240. It's once I got to make a few. I'm hoping this year. I'm hoping that this year 2240 will come.
John, was that what that page that you had up on Gilded a couple months back was for? It had like a sniper rifle on it or something, and you were working on the text for it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should wait. That looks good.
Yeah. I'm really trying. I'm working hard on leveling up my layout skills. So
I'm waiting for it because I have a game plan that uses his system, and I was gonna do it for his previous Atomic Punk, and it's like, yeah, I'm making a new Atomic Punk, Vic. I'm like, oh, okay. I'll just wait 4 years then.
Sorry.
But yeah, that's gonna be my 1950s like schlocky space opera game. So
Oh, that's cool. Hey, have either of you guys tried the Blade Runner RPG at all?
I haven't yet. I
not.
know it's Free League, and I hear it's good, but I hear it's more geared towards the whole investigating and like all that stuff, which that's fine. But I want like pulpy shootouts and
It is. I
kung
only
fu
mention
fights.
it because I tried it last year, and it's not. It doesn't have a lot of support, like in and of itself, for lots and lots of games. Like you'd have to write your own.
Yeah.
You have to design your own adventures, but the game mechanics I think are pretty solid. It's one of the better modern games that I've tried that aren't mine. Mine's good too, but no, like they thought of some clever things to do with dice that I don't know that I'd seen before, and I like.
Yeah, Free League has some interesting ideas. They do some good stuff, and they for the most part use like at least the core of like the same system, and then they adapt it to different games and different settings, and they will give it like unique little side mechanics and stuff. And I think they're really good at that.
Yeah, I only own a few Free League games. I have Coriolis is like the only Year Zero style game that I have, and it looks really good. I think Coriolis looks like an awesome game. I love the setting and essentially Knights of Arabia in space, but I'm not like this year. I sort of decided like I'm not gonna buy as many games this year. I already have too many to play and not enough time to play them. So I mean, and I have my own games. I want to play more of my own games. I want to run Cow Punchers. I want to run new Atomic Punk. I want to play Mach.
That's where I'm at.
Wait,
so
you should see my schedule, man. Like, the only way I can sustain that right now is because, for better or for worse, I got crippled a few years ago, and so I have less time that I physically can work, and so I'm able to run games online in particular. Even if I have to lay down for part of the game, I can still actually run it. I just want to have the camera on, and so that's enabled me to get more of them done. But like this month, I think I did or have scheduled, let's see, 3 times, so 12, at least 21 games.
Jesus, yeah, I know. I'm not even getting close to that.
Hey, thanks, Planet to War.
And I'm not running all of those, so 1 or 2 of those I'm playing in.
Yeah.
Cal says I say things like I'm not going to buy so much, it never works. But for me, it's like my view is like I want to master the games that I have at the moment and work on the games that I'm working on and finish them. So
yeah.
Let's see. And Radcaps is asking, when are you running games online, VTT of choice, or all via Gilded Discord voice type chat?
Yeah, I'm running on Gilded. We have a Gilded server set up for anyone who's bought Horde Wars Basic. The same will be true for Advanced, coming to the same server. And then we also do in-person games. So something goofy, like a third of our customers are from the Great Lakes area. That's where Nate and I live. So if you're close enough and are willing to travel, we'll totally game with you in person as well, which has been really fun, actually, to get the chance to do. I got to do that this last Saturday. Actually, we went up to Zeeland, Michigan, and played with a guy who was running his very first game of Horde Wars, and he'd played a few times, but he'd never run the game before. So that was a lot of fun.
Oh, so Michigan has a place named after the Dutch province of Zeeland. Nice.
Yeah, it does. There's a city named Zeeland. There's also a Holland, Michigan.
Yeah, we have an America over here, so I always joke like, "Yeah, hey guys, I'm going over to America," and it's just like some tiny ass town that's like 10 buildings. Like,
that's great.
Yeah.
C-Dod or K-Dod, I don't know how do you say your name. Sorry. Bought the game, excited to take a look. I heard you say there was a Gilded server. I got an email. It seems like it's maybe automated or you're sending it personally. I don't know, but I think they'll probably get an email soon for the invite.
Yeah, I send it. I send them personally. Basically, I get notified by the website whenever we get sales, and then I just I email you an invite.
Yeah.
However, for our physical customers, because we are selling physical books as well, old school mail order, mind you, but we are selling physical books or at conventions that we're at. For those, we do ask you to give us your email address so we can still invite you to the server.
Well, Redcap says this is the Lake Ontario checking in, so there you go.
I technically have a Discord server, but I'm never active on there because I'm too active on this guy's Gilded server over here.
Sorry.
So, but I also kind of consider that my server at this point too.
You are an admin, so
yeah. So if you want to know more about my games, you can also go on there. So
you have a whole channel to like it's Victor's workshop. So
yeah,
and yeah, Redcaps. If you want to travel, I mean, we are. We think when we'll be closer to Lake Ontario. I believe that is to my east. So I believe we're going to Saginaw, Michigan, or that general area twice this year. I think we're planning to be there. Let me see. In May at a private event, and then in September, late September, at a public event. We're planning to be at Big Geek Con again this year. So if you wanted to make the trip, I mean, you can always travel to where we live in the West Michigan side, but if you want to make the trip a bit less, if you make it to Big Geek Con, we should be there demoing and selling games in person, as well as selling some miniatures and such.
Nice. Maybe I'll hit up a con someday.
I'd like to go to a con, but there's some here in Boise. I got to check them out like every so often, and I just never make it around to it. Mostly because I'm not very sociable in person. So, Benjamin says, anyone has a Gilded server that's open? I'm interested in switching to Discord. Well, there's a Horde Wars one. I have one. It's pretty hop in place. As long as you're not like a complete psychopath, you're welcome. So, only partial psychopaths.
Yeah, like me. They get made admins.
Mine's pretty simple. If you're working on the game, you'll get an invite. Otherwise, if you purchase our product, you'll get an invite. And so far, we haven't had to kick or ban anyone. When that happens, just bear in mind, being invited does not mean you get to stay forever if you violate the rules, which are very simple, actually.
Shane's asking for basic on when. You know, I was thinking about it, and who were we talking to? The dungeon minister, because he was running Clericon, and I was like, either during the show or before, I was like, I'm thinking about running a con, and he's like, well, if you're prepared to lose money, then go ahead and do it. And I was like, I'm not prepared to do that yet, so we'll see.
Crowdfunded.
Well, he's not wrong. Conventions aren't cheap unless you already have a venue that you own or control in some way.
Yeah. We'll see.
If there ever is a basic con, though, I would feel obliged to show up. So,
TB's guild is a wretched hive of scum and villainy. It is,
but a fun one.
Yeah, it's pretty scummy and full of villainy.
Well,
you have to
people. The new people can't see all of that. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. They're locked out from all the secret channels. All the good channels.
We do have secret channels on there that you have to earn membership in by participating in the server. So
that's where all the good conversations happen.
It's true.
Good to see you, Raven. So overall, I know, John, you haven't played it, but Victor, how did you feel about game flow, your enjoyment level, kind of the danger to the character versus how badass you could be, that kind of thing.
I felt it was a good balance between danger and badassness, because there were still a bunch of times where I went down and I pretty much only got saved because people, washed over to my side or my orc healing ability and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But there was also times where I was like slaying dudes left and right.
Yeah.
That last thing we did where we were finding that orc army and I got to behead like that warlord and I threw it into the army and I was like, and that got me like a whole new nickname. My character was like the Jarl Slayer or something like that.
Yep.
Like, yeah, it was awesome. So like you said, it plays really fast. We fought like those 40 orcs plus all the wizards and like all the people that were like digging up from under the ground and came up in the bottom floor of the tower and stuff. We got that done in like 3 hours.
Yeah.
I've had 5e fights where it's like they're literally fighting like 5 things and it takes like 6 hours. So
Yeah.
so yeah, no, definitely felt very smooth.
Good.
But it is like you have said yourself, it is very 3E. It is very like build your character and stuff. So more modcore people might not enjoy it, but they've got plenty of other options. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So
and it's much faster to build a character or to play than that. But yeah, in terms of the style, yeah, you have to decide what you're going to create essentially. At some point, you could decide just kind of as you go, but at some point, you have to make choices like that.
Yeah.
Yes, Raven did manage to die. That is true.
Oh, I wasn't there for it. I just remember his knight. I don't think he ever
it was
died.
the snail.
Mm.
I believe I have one of the few RPGs that has the distinction of most of the players now being scared of snails.
Yes, you do.
That's neat, Tobor. Are you running a game you designed, or just like you just signed up to run any game at a table? I've not run at a game at a con, and I've always been scared. Because see, like I've shared some of my games on the channel here, and my games are nothing special. I freely admit that if my games are probably boring to watch if you're not in the game itself. So
yeah, Raven has played Horde Wars quite a bit. He has played both basic and advanced content. So you should take his word for it. He's been playing for like year and a half now.
Yeah. Trying to keep up on chat here in the side.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
I'll be right back real quick.
Cool.
Oh,
that's fun. That's fun, Devil's Theater.
monstrous. I have a splat book for Monstrous Snails and Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Yeah, he's having a sale soon. Even with the sale, I don't have any more room on my bookshelf right now. I need to appreciate what I have already.
Yeah. Raven, that is quite true. Sir Arthur Royce was attempting to seduce Death, and eventually she embraced him. That was quite fun.
Actions have consequences.
Yeah, but he definitely did his best to role play the character, and as a result, like solved the dungeon without a fight, which was pretty cool. But also got himself into other fights that weren't strictly necessary.
I'll see you, Red Caps. Has got to bounce, folks. Fun chat. Game looks great.
Oh yeah. Royce is the dead one, right?
Have a great night. Good night, Red Caps.
Thanks, Red Caps. All right.
Yeah, I tried to roleplay my orc pretty well. I mean, it's not that hard to roleplay an orc, to be honest, but I think I did a good job with just being a combat obsessed savage.
Yeah, and our orcs give you a little bit of stuff to draw from with the Norse theme.
Yeah.
Where we've got it always annoyed me that as a cycle for the last, I don't know, half a decade or so on Twitter and other social media, you'll see some idiot or another claiming that orcs are black people. They're
Yeah.
wrong. That is not where that mythology is from. That's just stupid. But I decided to push back on that a little by making my orcs pretty obviously white guys,
Yeah.
as they are definitely Vikings. They've got long ships. They're raiding along the coast for silver and slaves.
Yeah, I just imagined them with a tracksuit in my mind. It's a bit easy.
Yeah, and
It's
mine
just a
have blue
tracksuit and a
skins
horn
to help
helmet.
them be differentiated.
Right. See you later. See you later, Benjamin.
Bye.
Your name makes me laugh. I
Wait,
don't know
Vic
why.
can't roleplay an orc not in a tracksuit.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing your modern orc in tracksuit, Vic.
Yeah. I mean, I've played those before. That's
Dude,
pretty
I've
much
seen
what my
orcs
modern
in your
games are.
game like that.
Yeah, basically, yeah. My orcs are my modern orcs. At least they tend to be like Russians, basically. they tend to be like generic Slavics. So I mean, maybe that's also not done. I don't know, but I don't know. I enjoy it.
Yes, C-Dod, they do have razor sharp teeth, but the culture I meant, not the look.
Yeah. Or even just traditional orcs. I have like no idea how you associate those with all that stuff. But whatever.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
a completely
terrible.
different topic.
It
But
really
yeah,
it tells you the person saying that is either trolling or wildly racist.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm too tired to even argue with that argument anymore. Like I don't care anymore.
Oh, I don't argue with it. I just decided to have some fun with the ongoing silliness.
Yeah. I'm just gonna make my orcs Dutch. This is where like combat cloaks and stuff
You
like
should.
that.
You should. Combat clogs is right.
Yeah.
Although it might be more appropriate on goblins. Get some red
Yeah.
caps in there with their deadly clogs.
Well, in one of my games, I made the Dutch equivalent. Basically, I made them the what are they called? The frog people. The in D&D, can't remember my name, but basically they were frog people. So yeah,
The
The frog
bullywugs,
peop-
I think.
yeah, bullywugs. So
Yeah.
I made the Dutch like bullywugs. They live like in like this swampy like polder area. Like they drained the seas and stuff, and they had like little windmills and stuff. So, yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
That's great. Well, I got to wrap things up, guys. It's been
Sure.
very good talking with you both.
Yeah,
Did
definitely.
you
well-
have any other questions for me? I know, John, you had a couple at the beginning there.
No, I think you answered them. We'll wrap it up here. It's coming up on the 2-hour mark, anyways. Which is, I don't generally like to go over that myself. But yeah, the link to Blackwall's game is in the video description below on Big Geek Emporium. You can get the PDF there. Like he said, you can contact him. I didn't put your Twitter link in there or anything like that, but I think it's linked on your. I'm assuming it's linked on your Big Geek Emporium page as well.
I think so. If not, here, let me quick pull it up for you.
If you can put it, you can put it in private chat, and I'll throw it in the.
Yep.
In the chat
That was
here.
our plan.
But check out Horde Wars if you're kind of into that style game. I know that I know I've talked to so many people that are into 3E, that 3E flavor. So getting it on a D12, which is a very much less than loved die, is cool.
Yeah, I don't think it gets used enough. Also, that guy, he did the cover art. So good job,
Yeah.
John.
No problem. But yeah, if there's any last thing you want to say to plug, and then Blackwall, then I'll let Vic talk about anything that he wants to talk about real quick and close it out.
I mean, I just encourage you to try out Horde Wars Basic. It's only $5 on Big Geek Emporium. We do sell physical product. If you are interested in that, you can message me on Twitter or at the email I gave earlier, which is I think Horde Wars Horde Wars at blackwallgames.com. Anyway, I encourage you to try it for $5 because if you like it, you'll like the next 3 games we're producing. If you don't like it, you're only out $5.
It's like it's like a Starbucks coffee,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Vic, is there anything you want to plug or talk about before we close out?
Well, next month I'm doing my Kickstarter for updated modern necessities, including a bunch of stretch goals included. I just said including basically twice, but I'm adding a stretch goal for cyberpunk rules, for Weird West rules, and a whole like level 1 to 3 adventure that's inspired by Keep on the Borderlands, but it's set in a magical apocalypse setting. So if you are interested in that, check out that link that I just shared. You can give it a follow, and you'll be alerted when it goes live on on March 1st. And yeah. That's going to be my next big project, basically, and hopefully it'll do well. Other than that, I have like multiple things that I'm working on. I'm working on my custom kind of like modern white box game called Ammo. Well, the system is called Ammo Box. The game is called 0E Dark 30, which is a name that John graciously gave to me to use. I am planning to do a second edition of my 5e modern rules, which are probably going to end up being a whole standalone game with like entirely new classes and like all that stuff. What else am I working on? Yeah, once he finishes Atomic Punk, I'm going to do Rivets and Rockets, which is going to be kind of like Flash Gordon-esque, like 1950s pulpy space opera. So that should be fun. Yeah, so I have like so many things I'm working on. I can't even remember them all. Oh yeah, I'm working on my own 2D8 system. With its game called The Professionals, which is going to be like kind of like cinematic, like action movie stuff. So, you know, you can be like John Wick, you can be like James Bond, you can be Jason Bourne, you can be like, you know, whatever. And yeah, like I said, I have so many things that in my head. Yeah, that's about it, really. For the most part, check out my Kickstarter next month. That's the important one right now.
Yeah, support Vic and subscribe to his channel. I think I tagged him in the video description as well.
I'm at almost 1,600 subscribers now on YouTube.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
For me, Makuhito is on DriveThruRPG, or you can get the PDF on my website, thebasicexpert.com. White box role playing in the Aztec Empire. So if you're into white box games and you want some historical, semi-historical, mythological Aztec role playing, Makuhito will be the game to check out. I'm trying to get the hardcover figured out. I'm at a point where I'm almost just gonna like. I've even thought about hiring someone to fix my mistakes because I'm struggling. I'm struggling with this stupid hardcover, but I'm making some progress. I hope. I also do a zine once a month. If you're interested in that, I got lots of zine issues here. And this is the latest one that's for February. This one that is really much focused on Castles and Crusades and has a custom dwarf class that's like a underground shroom shaman guy that one of my players uses in our Castles and Crusade games. So, yeah. And then White Box will be coming out soon too. My 0E plus chainmail clone. I'm trying to get that done. I'm about 2/3 done with that. Nice. So hopefully that'll be a take on a clone that not many people have attempted to do, so it should be interesting. But
then that's the game we're working on together soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, got to get these other things done first.
Yeah.
I think we're both.
Yeah. We've been kind of swamped both.
Yeah. But it's that one's gonna happen for sure.
Yeah.
I think with both Vic and I working on it, we could get it done pretty quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to thank you, DM Blackwall, for coming on talking about Horde Wars. I hope you're successful in it and advance is successful. Yeah, advance is successful, and you can fund your other games that you guys want to make and get out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
But yeah, we'll end it here. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure you check out the links, and we'll catch you guys in the next video, next stream.
Dag iedereen.